Imagine stepping back in time to London in the 1700s. It's a city crackling with contradictions, a place where dazzling elegance and grimy survival share the same cobblestone streets. This isn't just a city, it's a metropolis in the midst of explosive transformation, a portrait of a world on the brink of modernity. Our journey begins at the River Thames, the city's pulsing artery. The water is crowded with merchant ships, their masts a jagged skyline of global ambition. They've come from the Americas, Africa, India, and the Caribbean. On the docks, stevedores unload tobacco, tea, sugar, silk, and spices. This is the heart of a booming consumer culture, but it's also where we see the darker cargo tied to Britain's role in the transatlantic slave trade and economic reality that financed much of London's luxurious growth. Walking inland from the wharf, the city comes alive with sound. You hear the clatter of horse-drawn coaches, the cries of street vendors selling oysters, pies, ribbons, and newspapers. The air hums with the noise of workshops, stitching and forging, creating goods for what historians call the birth of modern shopping. Looming over the smoke and soot is St. Paul's Cathedral. Its great dome, completed just a few decades earlier, is more than a religious icon. It's a symbol of London's rebirth after the Great Fire of 1666. Inside, it's a meeting place for gossip, political whispers, and fashionable promenades. Nearby, the famous coffeehouses are buzzing, known as penny universities. This is where merchants, writers, scientists, and politicians gather to debate and exchange news. Imagine sitting in a corner, sipping coffee, while figures like Samuel Johnson or Jonathan Swift discuss the latest ideas of the Enlightenment. These caffeinated hubs gave London an intellectual vigor unmatched in the English-speaking world. But venture just a few streets away, and you find a starkly different London. Here, open sewers run through the alleys, the air is foul with refuse, and disease is a constant threat. In the poorer districts of St. Giles and Whitechapel, entire families crowd into single, damp rooms. Gin shops offer a cheap, fleeting escape from misery, and skilled pickpockets, immortalized in novels, watch every distracted passerby. Justice is harsh and public. Crowds gather to watch punishments, and the gallows at Tyburn serve as a grim reminder that theft or forgery could lead to execution. For a different kind of spectacle, we head to the theaters of Drury Lane and Covent Garden. These are not quiet, reverent spaces. Audiences shout, argue, and gamble. The line between high society and ordinary Londoners blurs. You might catch a performance by David Garrick, the superstar actor who transformed Shakespeare's plays into living, breathing drama. Outside, the Covent Garden market is an energetic whirlwind of fruit sellers, flower girls, and street performers, all competing for your coins. This was also an age of incredible scientific curiosity. The Royal Society promoted groundbreaking experiments in electricity, astronomy, and botany. Wealthy Londoners became collectors, filling their cabinets with curiosities like shells, fossils, and Egyptian artifacts, the very first prototypes of our modern museums. Yet, medical care remained perilous. Surgeons operated without anesthesia, hospitals were overcrowded, and outbreaks of smallpox and cholera were terrifyingly common. Not all of London's entertainment was for the faint of heart. Bear-baiting pits still drew rowdy crowds, and duels erupted among gentlemen defending their honor. At the same time, the city's publishing industry was exploding. Fueled by rising literacy, it churned out newspapers, pamphlets, novels, and political cartoons, creating an informed but often scandal-hungry public. The satirist William Hogarth captured these contrasts perfectly in his engravings, showing both the progress and the vices of his time. For the wealthy, London's West End offered a world of refined elegance. Wide squares were lined with grand Georgian townhouses, and manicured parks like St. James's provided tranquil escapes. In private salons, aristocrats debated politics over fine wines. And then there were the Vauxhall Gardens, one of the century's most beloved attractions. Here, under lantern-lit trees, Londoners of all classes gathered for music, food, fireworks, and flirtation. It was an environment that was both liberating and socially electric. Moving east, the docks reveal another side of London, the beating heart of Britain's maritime empire. This was a cosmopolitan, often volatile world where sailors, laborers, and foreign traders mingled. Taverns overflowed with rowdy energy, and languages from across the globe echoed through the alleys. It was also a dangerous place, where press gangs roamed, looking for men to force into naval service. Back in the quieter neighborhoods, domestic life was also changing. The 1700s saw the rise of the middle class. Families began hiring servants, buying fashionable clothes, reading newspapers, and attending public lectures. This consumer boom fueled the city's expansion into new suburbs like Marylebone and Bloomsbury. However, behind the grandeur of Georgian architecture lay harsh social realities. Education for the poor was limited, child labor was widespread, and thousands of women navigated a dangerous and exploitative life on the streets. Philanthropic movements were just beginning to address this, with the establishment of foundling hospitals, orphanages, and charity schools' early attempts to combat the overwhelming poverty. When night fell, London became a place of risk. Violent gangs roamed the alleys, the few oil lamps offered little light, and the city watchmen were often ineffective. Yet, even in its danger, 18th century London felt vibrantly alive, a city of immense possibility. It was a place where fortunes could be made and lost in an afternoon, where new ideas could spark revolutions, and where the seeds of our modern world were being planted. Ultimately, a tour of 1700s London is a tour of human ambition. It's a city defining what it means to be modern, with its bustling markets, intellectual exchange, global influence, and stark social conflicts. Every street tells a story of progress, survival, injustice, and brilliance. And though centuries have passed, the echoes of that time remain. The contrasts between wealth and struggle, the layering of old and new, and the restless, relentless energy, it's all still here, reminding us that every great city is built from countless human stories, layered across time. Thanks for joining me on this journey back to 18th century London. If you enjoyed this trip through history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more explorations into the past. See you next time.